Marcellus, Wiley. Let's roll out to Pasadena and LeVar Arrington. Let's keep it moving here. Cam Newton still without a job. Everybody has plenty of advice for Cam Newton. Deion Sanders says he shouldn't be a backup quarterback. Jason Lockenborg says he'd be silly to take a backup deal for $5 to $7 million. Some people are saying, are insinuating racism and problems for Cam Newton, why he doesn't have a job. The question here is, Marcellus, is Cam Newton getting bad advice?
Oh, man. No, he's not getting bad advice. Here's the thing about this. The whole word advice is something you already know, but somebody else tells you. You think Cam Newton doesn't already know he's not a $3 million backup quarterback in his league? So I don't know what advice is out there, but his best friend, who is himself, Cam Newton's inner voice, is saying we are not taking any less than what we deserve. And it's not about what's going to be given to Cam, it's what he's already earned. And he's earned more than just being a backup quarterback. So Cam Newton in this situation is listening to himself, which is great advice, something he already knows.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree and say that it's a bad strategy, and I think if it's coming from advice, it's bad advice. And the reason why I say that is when we talk about him being a former MVP, which continues to be the argument and the topic of why he shouldn't be a backup, you got to keep in mind the place where he won that MVP award, he was released and let go for a quarterback that they brought in through free agency. There has to be conversations that are taking place as to why, if this man is still at an MVP level, why would Carolina allow him to leave? That's first and foremost. They did allow him to leave, which would be perceived as a lateral move to Teddy Bridgewater. If you feel as though you're still that caliber of a player, then you get on a roster and you win the job, because the only people that would be perceived to owe him, or he's earned, as you said, Marcellus, that starting position or thought process, he was released from that team. So I think it's bad advice to not get on a team and win a position on the team. And if you're still that guy, you win that starting job. I just think that it's dangerous to sit here and try to play the money game. And that's what this is coming down to. I think they're trying to get more money, because I don't know that once they see him play, he will have the leverage to be able to get a bigger contract than what he can based off of the unknowns of right now.
Yeah, the advice that he's not getting is about humility. And life, football will humble you at some point. And Cam Newton is going through his season of humility, and everyone's trying to tell him to act like he's still the MVP, Cam. So I do think it's bad advice. I do think there's some miles left on Cam's tires. But if he doesn't smother himself in humility, this thing could turn out even worse, and he could start out the 2020 season on the sidelines without a job. All right, we got to keep it rolling. Terrell Davis, a Hall of Fame running back, is just around the corner. We're going to ask him if Andy Dalton is a threat to Dak Prescott. Terrell Davis from his...
...to support their sports. So that's what made us want to go out and play extremely hard and make them feel proud and so forth. So it was an incredible experience for me, and I try and get back as often as I possibly can. And I've got a lot of friends there that still live in Buffalo. I had a dear friend that passed away, Larry White, who was a police officer in Buffalo. But I've got a number of friends there, and Buffalo is very fond in my heart.
Bruce, you mentioned the Football Life documentary on the NFL Network. I watched it. It was tremendous. In there, though, it mentioned, Steve Tasker mentioned that you and Jim Kelly did not start off with the greatest relationship. And then I watched Jim Kelly talk about you as a brother now. You guys are very, very close. Why did you guys, what happened early on, and then how did you guys become so close?
Well, I think we were two-star athletes, just young. He was the quarterback of the team, and I wasn't necessarily the quarterback on defense, but I was the first player picked in the draft. And I don't think it was anything that was tremendously contentious. I just think that in some cases, one might have taken an offense to something that was said here or there. Actually, I do remember one of the things that it was during practice, and Jim had made a statement off of the field or something, and I said, okay, I'm just going to show Jim I can have my way during practice when we start live drills and so forth. So I beat the left tackle around the corner and was kind of toying with him a little bit. And I went behind Jim and knocked the ball out of his hands, which wasn't the smartest thing to do because I could have injured our star quarterback. And then we would have been obviously in a bad situation for the season or until he came back. And we got into a little confrontation. But I think he got the point that let's keep this civil, and we'll be able to have a workable relationship. But we really started bonding together when Jim would have, after home games, he would have get together at his house in the basement. He would invite the whole team and their family over. We would go down, and man, we'd be down there to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes shooting pool, watching other football games, and just having a great time. And his mother would be upstairs. And I found out that his mother had emphysema, which my father was suffering from at the time. So I would start going up stairs and talking with Mrs. Kelly. And I did this repeatedly, game after home game after home game after home game, and I just felt this connection with my father being here in Norfolk, Virginia, and in sitting there talking to her and understanding how she was ailing and couldn't breathe and had to walk around with the oxygen tank and so forth. And our relationship just seemed to blossom almost to the extent that his mother started calling me son as well. And that's how she thought of me, and that's how we bonded. And Jim, our relationship just kind of springboarded off of that. And I love that man to death. He's been through an awful lot with the loss of his son due to Krabbe's disease. He lost his father a number of years ago, and now him and his battle with cancer. But God bless him and his family, man. We think about him, and we cherish the relationship we have each and every day.
Bruce, I don't want to rush you, but we're running out of time, and I can't let you go without asking you about one other thing from that A Football Life documentary. It
Sure.
mentioned you were bullied as a kid, and I wanted to know a little details on that and what impact it had on your life.
Man, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. But it taught me how to treat people and how not to treat people. It taught me a lot of lessons in life, man, because there were so many times that I came home and I just didn't know where to turn. I would cry sometimes. I would walk around depressed, and it was just a low point in my life, and trying to understand why this was happening to me. But I think the fact that sports came into my life, it started giving me that outlook and taking that timid little kid and making me more and more of a strong teenager and a young man, and giving me the discipline and things that were necessary to help me survive through the struggles of life. So it really was an important time in my life, and it would, who knows, it probably was necessary for me to go through those things, because now I look upon people as, I want to treat people. I want to treat people. I want to treat people the way that I want to be treated, and that's the way I look at it. So it was a critical time in my young childhood.